Hi, I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World, and this is the newest pattern in the Funny Faces Quilt Block of the Month Club. And when I say newest, it is now October 15th, 2021, and this is the new current pattern in the Funny Faces Quilt Block of the Month Club. It'll be exclusive to club members until November 15th, 2021, at which point it will no longer be available for a little while and the club will get a new pattern, but then it'll be available in the regular shop at Shiny Happy World sometime in early December. I don't have a set date that I make them available, but it's usually a few weeks after it is no longer available in the club. So if you're in the club, you can go ahead and download the pattern now. It is in the clubhouse waiting for you. And if you're not in the club and you join this month, this is the pattern that you're going to get. So I've shown it here as a bald eagle, and that's the example that I'm going to use in the pattern. But it's important to note that this pattern will really work for a lot of different raptor type birds. So it'll work for a lot of eagles, a lot of hawks, harriers, osprey, falcons. It'll work for some buzzards. So take a look. Any of these kind of hooked beak birds, and very often they have different coloring on the head and the body, but if they don't, you can make the head and the body out of the same fabric or very similar fabric. But you can actually get a lot of different kinds of raptor birds from this pattern. So here's how to make it. Okay, I've got all my pieces fused and cut out, and I've transferred the placement lines from the back to the front, and now I'm ready to put this guy together. So this is a bald eagle version of the block, but I'm going to show you at the end. Remember, this will really work for a lot of different kinds of raptors, lots of different hawks, ospreys, buzzards, harriers, lots of different things. So we're going to start with the body piece, and I've got it says here, line this edge up with the raw edge of your background block. So that is going to get lined up right at this bottom edge. And I'm going to turn this under so you can see. The batting actually only goes to here, so I'm lining it up with the batting. My fabric actually overlaps the batting a little bit. So that is lined up there. Okay, the next step is going to be to put the head in place. So this is pretty easy to put together except for the beak. The beak gets a little fussy. So I transferred these markings on the body piece. I'm going to shift this over just a little bit. And as soon as I get those covered, I know that I've got enough overlap to get the head on there. And actually, I'm going to shift him over a little bit more because I know his beak is going to stick out some there. All right, so those lines are all covered, so I've got enough overlap there. Next up comes the shoulder. And this also tells you to line that flat edge up with the bottom edge of your block. So that overlaps his head there a little bit. Okay, now we've got the beak, and the beak is a little bit fussy. So I'm going to show you, I've got a couple of dotted lines here. I've got a line here that goes all the way across the curved edge of the beak. That is where the top is going to overlap the beak. And then this little bit here shows you where it overlaps this point on his face. And I'm showing those to you on the back side because I marked it with chalk, but I'm not sure if that's going to read well enough on the video. So put this, peel the back off, and I've got a marking here showing where this is going to overlap. So I'm overlapping it, just overlapping that line, and this little marking here, which I'm not sure if you can see, but this is that kind of squared off, this marking, this little point in there, that's going right where the point of the white is. And then we've got the beak, and again, just showing you its markings. It's got a long overlap piece here showing where it's overlapping the lower beak. This is where it's overlapping the head, and this is where his little nostril thing is going to go. I'm not sure if they call those holes in a beak nostrils. I don't know if that's actually a nose or not, but so this is going to line up, this point is going to line up with the point at the back of the beak and overlap the head a little bit and overlap that lower beak. So I just shifted that some. The main thing is to get that piece really well lined up. It's hard when we've got them tapering together. But that is going to work well, and I'm just double checking. Yep, I am overlapping that line on the bottom there, and that's coming in where that's supposed to. And then my sleeve caught the shoulder on this guy, so let me put that back in place. All right, one more. I've got a little nostril here. Nostril, maybe nostril-like thing, not sure. So I just did this in a slightly darker yellow, more of a gold. And we have one giant eagle eye going right where I've marked that. Okay, so the next step is to take this over to my ironing board, double check, make sure I've got everything lined up where I want it to be, and then I'm going to fuse it permanently in place. Then I'll do all of the outline stitching, and I'll bring it back and I'll show you this finished block, and I'll also show you the other variations I did. Usually I do some playful variations with fantasy colors, but on this one I actually did several in natural colors, but showing you different kinds of raptors that you can make with the same block. So I'll be back and show all of those to you. All right, here he is. The bald eagle is all finished, all outlined. Really, the only thing that was super fussy about the outlining on this one was the little nostril piece. And honestly, you could leave that off if you want to. In one of the samples that I'm going to show you, I did, and it looks just fine. Just if you want it to be a little more realistic, or if you have a fairly flat textured fabric like I used here, you may want the added detail there. So that is with this pattern as a bald eagle coloring, but a lot of raptors have the same kind of hooked beak, and they have head feathering that comes off their head. The head's a slightly different color than the body. So I did this in a few different colors too, to show you that it doesn't have to be a bald eagle, though for those of you who have the Woodland Critters quilt pattern, a lot of people have asked me for a bald eagle pattern. So here are some others. So for this one, it's a golden eagle, and they are really just a brown eagle, but they do have a slightly lighter brown head, and their beak is usually gray. I've got another one here. So this one, I was looking at photos of falcons. They are usually grays rather than browns. Eagles and hawks are usually brown, not always. And falcons tend to be a lot of gray ones. And I noticed several of them had kind of a yellowish underbeak and a darker, almost black overbeak. So this is not a particular falcon, it's just a falconish kind of bird. And I've got one more. This is the one that I did that I didn't include the little nostril piece. And you can see it had a more textured, I used a more noticeably patterned fabric on the beak, and I just really felt like it was unnecessary, so I ended up not putting it on there. But this one is a red-shouldered hawk, and they have that kind of rusty orange wings, so, and a slightly lighter head. So a lot of different kinds of birds that you can get with the same pattern, just changing the color shape. So again, look at your eagles, your hawks, your ospreys, your harriers, your kites. A lot of those will work with this pattern. So I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World. I'll see you next month.